live. Hold on, there we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. How are you? Hi. How's it going? Happy, does Friday exist anymore? I mean, really. All of our freedoms have been stolen. I don't even know which way is up. Can we at least agree on some facts? That time flows forward at least, but I don't know that that's even true. I mean, people in Scotland are watching right now, whom I love dearly, as a new Scot, as I like to call myself. You know, many people know that we knew we had some English background. We definitely thought there was some Irish in there. Found out that there was a ton of Scottish in our background thanks to the 23andMe Ancestry.com type stuff, which my family being all tech nerds and early adopters, let's just say, of most technologies, which, by the way, is one of the reasons I'm willing to be one of the first people to get the vaccine, and I don't know who to reach out to. So you have any ideas, let me know. Do I call Pfizer and just tech support? Hi, how you doing? I'm Hal Sparks, world famous comedian, mega worldwide famous, you'd even say, star of not one but two hit TV shows, and who've carved out my own little niche of the internet during lockdown, basically from scratch. I mean, honestly, these days, what more evidence do you need? Hello, Ireland, I love you, and remember, it's my island. So I don't, do I call them up? Just go, hi there, how you doing? Good to see you. Give me a shot, and then give me a shot in, I guess, 26 days, 28 days later. Hello. We'll figure it out. Molly's lovely. She was released from the bathroom where she's been kept in quarantine, and she made it onto the bed and around the bedroom with the door closed on the bedroom. We're slowly expanding her experience of the house because she's overwhelmed by the space. I feel like oh my God, thank you, Rebecca. Welcome. And welcome to all our new patrons and especially welcome to our long-term patrons. I love you guys, and I can't thank you enough for making this show possible. It's because of you guys specifically that we have lights and a decent microphone with some consistency and quite frankly, the hard drive space, because I had to buy a hard drive to back up all the stuff so that I had redundancy in this, which is the lecture I gave to Stuttering John yesterday, but I digress. Where was I? Oh yes, famous and will get shot. I will gladly be one of the early people to get the COVID vaccine, and largely because I simply, quite frankly, I have no problem with cold. You know, I have no cold sensation, so you can just give it to me straight out of the freezer. Negative 70 degrees, right in the neck, just like some sort of neck tracer they give to Snake Plissken in Escape from New York. Call me Snake. Thanks, guys. It's funny how many people are only noticing I have long hair today because I'm not sitting in the chair. I'm back to using a stool, and that's for a couple reasons. One is, so I sit here so long in these shows. I'm not used to sitting this much. This is a new thing, doing this show. And as a matter of fact, I'm thinking first of the year, work with me on this, to transitioning to this show being a stand-up show. And I don't mean just comedy. I mean, I'm going to transition this to a standing desk and a standing thing, even though it means standing doing the show for a couple hours. Big deal. Done it before, not a huge deal. But just because the amount of sitting is just kind of like, bleh, I don't like it. So regardless, I swapped out. Originally, you'll remember, I swapped out the chair for a little stool, but the stool I got doesn't go high enough for the desk, and so it was kind of like this, well, here's the show, I suppose. But, I was like, okay, worth it for posture and whatnot. Yesterday, I'm at IKEA, buying a shelf, not important. But, that little room where they have all the cast-offs and the sad, lonely, broken, dejected pieces of IKEA furniture that people have either built and returned or not been able to build or was missing, basically all the furniture with a screw loose. So I felt like I fit right in. And I go into that little section thinking, I don't know, maybe, I always feel like maybe it's the feral cat salvaging part of me that I'm like, I feel like I could find a couch I could find a home for, even though I don't have any room. So anyways, hello, Australia, how are you? Good to see you. And so I found this little stool in the cast-offs for half off. So I was like, it seems all right, and so there we go. So I got it, and now it dink dink. I don't care if it's dented or scratched. It keeps it going from going into a landfill, right? And let somebody else buy the new thing, right? So thank you to our new patrons for the stool, so that my posture doesn't completely collapse during the time that I'm doing the show in a seated or position. Before we move to totally like resting Buddha version of the show, where I just lay inclined on a pillow with my hand up on my shoulder, just long legs out there, and monks gold leaf me. I think that's the next step, right? Isn't it? So, all right. Yesterday, we, I bailed out on the leftover bullshit of Trump's deposition. We'll get back to that. But we have new Rudy video. We also have some curiously telling video from the people who are, I guess, speaking in terms of, they're making their case in front of different houses throughout the country. We now have 17 states who collectively, if you put every dollar that they present in federal tax dollars together, don't match California. They're all ganging up on the states that didn't vote for Donald Trump because United States of what? And basically they're forming their own. I guess it would be a rednexit. Have I just coined a term? It's the rednexit. It's like Blexit meets Brexit for rednecks. The new Confederacy, which is the rednexit. The Rudy thing is very short. He's on Steve Bannon's show, so it's like two of the most disgusting people in the world interviewing each other. It's literally watching two boils in a carbuncle just kind of chat about, I mean, it's rednexit. Am I not right? I mean, honestly, who? Huh? You're welcome. Oh, did they? Oh, rats. Okay, well, I'll still take credit for it because it was a spontaneous thought. It's just multiple spontaneous thoughts. Hashtag rednexit. So, anyways, thank you guys for joining me today, and thanks for supporting the show. Thanks for the stars and on Facebook. Everybody seems to be making up for the fact in giving stars today, which I really appreciate it. Thank you, Diana and others, for those stars right now. For the amount of racist, sexist, homophobic, misogynistic people I had to broom out, along with 2 death threats. That's right. You're making your mark. When they start posting those things, when you finally have to report someone in your chat for terrorism, you're actually making some headway. You know what I mean? No pun intended, because I think he threatened to behead me, which is, what an American would do to another American, and is not ISIS at all. So I had to, broom that out. So at least Facebook, to some degree, the people giving stars are at least trying to make up for keeping that site alive temporarily until it's broken up, and I guess accounts have to be you have to prove your account is in the country that it says it's in. That kind of thing would be helpful, because you get tons of these like, I am from Poughkeepsie, New York, and I've lived here all my life, but my family is from Indiana, and we are red-blooded American. We totally think Trump won, and also you are anti-American. Please stop, show not good, Trump 24, 28, 20, on and on and on. Like that crowd, good times. Do I shave my chest? No, I do not. Not currently, anyways. I have in the past. I'm not against it, but not currently. So here we go. I want to jump right into this business today. Now, keep in mind that over the course of the next, what are we, 5 days? there's gonna be a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth. All these people signing on to this case, all these Republicans coming out, which, by the way, why are we surprised that the party that is defending statues of Confederate soldiers and naming bases where soldiers for the United States of America are trained to go into battle to often fight dictators and fascists, are named after Confederate generals who fought against the United States? You know those folks? Yeah. Are we surprised that they're now grouping together for their own in Civil War? Why are we surprised that the same party that wants to leave up Confederate general statues, the statues of the losers, that those same people want to override the vote of the majority of Americans? Now, keep in mind the root difference, and I do think this is one of the ways that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party can define themselves in a positive sense and try to make their case going forward in the future, is that the Democrats are the party of democracy. One person, one vote, all legal votes counted. Every eligible American citizen, and only eligible American citizens over the age of 18, have the right to vote, and therefore every vote should be counted. That every opportunity should be provided to make sure that those people have the right to have their vote counted. And anyone interrupting that is committing a primary crime against the United States. And that the Democrats themselves, and I include myself in this, should constantly affirm and reaffirm and remind everyone that we are the party of democracy. Beyond all the social programs and beyond all the aspects of, our belief of how tax policy should be directed via those Democratic votes, beyond all that, right or wrong, red or blue, or independents white, is that where we're going right now? Most independents are privileged white people who are like, I am a country in and of myself. I don't need a driver's license. I'm a sovereign being. Is it red, white, and blue? All people of all stripes should have the right to vote, and then their ideas should be tested in public. So the removal of things in the Senate, for example, which is things that Republicans are totally for, like the anonymous hold on a bill, which is anti-democratic and means that Republican senators can stop a bill from proceeding forward and making it to the floor, but do it anonymously, so even their own voters who voted for them won't know it was them that did it. Puts them strongly in the senatorial electoral college land is more important than people crowd, and Democrats can go, we're for people get to vote. Now, to answer all the rural versus urban freak out folks out there, the Farm Bill and all of its supporting programs were presented by and shored up by Democrats since time immemorial. And it's one of the consistencies in the Democratic Party that even though it switched, the Dixiecrats switched over to becoming Republicans, the through line of the Democratic Party has often been to support rural America and farming in a lot of different ways, including food safety bills and that kind of stuff, and tariff issues and the like. So to all those folks that think that California and New York, like San Francisco and the West Village, are going to dictate what they can teach in school in Idaho, I would say to you on two things. One is, your kids are already there. You have cable TV. There is no San Francisco and West Village anymore. And if your ideas can't stand up to the externalized ideas of the other party, maybe your ideas are fundamentally weak or have lived past their expiration date. That said, make your case, but don't try to make your case by denying the case of others. That also said is that if there's a reason why a lot of people in rural states and heavily agrarian states and the red states in particular tend to flock to the cities is twofold. One, business, and two, acceptance. A lot of people leave red states, and they like myself, I grew up in Kentucky. Having moved to Chicago, really found my way as an artist and as a comedian, and that gave me a springboard that I would not have had in Kentucky, where they were doing everything they could to kill every possible art program in school, boil it down to arithmetic and reading, but only to a limited stance, and then you only read the books we haven't burned yet kind of idea is the ultimate goal of those. So they try to they rage against Common Core, but then themselves they argue for a slowly and constantly shrinking core of what's taught in elementary and primary school and high school. So a lot of people move out of red states because they simply just don't feel like as entrepreneurs, as gay people, as artists, as musicians, they just can't make a living there. And the only wide exception is, of course, Nashville, which they used to call, like Hollywood, they used to call Nashville with a tan. Now everybody's got tans and cap teeth in Nashville, more so than L.A. Like, honest to God. We'll have a discussion about the San Franciscoing of Nashville at some point, and the tortured, closeted gay world of country music at an entirely different time, because that's a huge undertaking and emotionally a new door. So the red states tend to lose people because they just don't feel like there's any, it's a very closed-minded society. It can be very religiously stringent. And then there's also simply business. If you want to have a big business, if you want to have access to business, one of the ways you do it is by moving to a city where, quite frankly, that's where the big businesses are. And whether it's, San Francisco and the Cupertino area for tech, and the same thing with Seattle, or Los Angeles and New York for media or politics or finance, or Chicago for trade, which is a big element of it, or even going to, Houston and Dallas for the oil industry and the like. Okay. That's why they pack up and leave these smaller areas and go there. Because if you're going to make a living and you're going to make a living bigger than what's there, your options are limited. Well, one of the ways you can fix that is coast-to-coast fiber optic broadband smart grid, which is one of the things that Joe Biden is presenting as a part of his infrastructure package. And one of my favorite things that can exist. Now, as much as Republicans fear the internet and education and cable TV, and rightly so, because it's hard to convince people that Jews and black people and women are incapable or inferior or conniving or whatever your particular bigoted stereotype is. It's really hard to convince them of that, if indeed they can see people who aren't, right? And they go, well, that's clearly not true. This is a very intelligent person that means well. And oh, look, there's another one. Oh, and another one. And my goodness, how capable these women seem. I think many of them could run several companies or even governments quite well. This is kind of amazing. It's a little hard to bullshit people into a corner in those circumstances, which is why they kind of rail against this. But ultimately, from a business standpoint, this is one of the best things that could happen to rural America, is not only that it would link up the agricultural sector as far as small farms with options that for education, even homeschooling that they wouldn't have had before, but also would open the fact that you could run a tech company out of Idaho or Montana or any of these places if you had a smart grid and an internet capability that was equal to the size of the big cities. It's the same thing as every other utility experience they've ever had. And the fact that they're arguing against this, or they're going to try and scuttle it, which they will, means that ultimately they've dug so far into wearing an R on their jersey that they just don't give a goddamn about the people in their state. And you need only look further, you need look no further than the fact that red state citizens are dying at a much higher clip. And as we hit this mark, this unfortunate and sorrowful mark of 3,000 dead a day, probably lasting through the end of February before the Biden administration can get anything ramped up and solve it. And the president has just taking his hands off the reins and is letting the cart run into the ravine because it's not his friggin' problem anymore. Let's not pretend that while Trump is arguing, quote unquote, that he was robbed and the whole thing was rigged, he has no interest in being president anymore. He hasn't been acting as president. He's been farting around a little bit. They pushed him out twice to do kind of perfunctory presidential things. But right now, he's the very bunker baby that he was accusing Biden of being. He's had... that's a lot of B's in a row. I apologize, but he's hiding. He's and just mad tweeting. Thanks, Gary. Love you guys too. Yes. So and by the way, insofar as the death penalty stuff, all the people that are on federal death row, they're going to bum rush all their deaths as quickly as possible between now and Biden getting in office, because it's one of the few things he can do. Not only are they going to pardon, is Trump going to pardon his entire family preemptively, he's going to kill everybody on death row because he thinks it makes him look macho and tough and like he's the only person who can do the hard work on his way out the door. And for the record, just in case you know, I'm against the death penalty. I'm not against the death penalty simply because no one deserves to die for what they've done. That's clearly not true. But my problem with the death penalty is that it is guaranteed to be imperfect, and you're going to kill an innocent person sooner or later. And the cost of killing an innocent person just so you can murder 5 other people that you think don't deserve to live anymore is too high, because that innocent person did not deserve to die, no matter what. And you can't excuse that death because you really needed to kill these other people. You lock them up, you keep them there forever. And in the future, if you go, oh shit, that guy might have been involved in 2 other crimes, you can figure out, and he might have had an accomplice. We can now go to him and go, hey, we know you had an accomplice on this one. We could probably give you a couple of extra meals a week if you let us know who they are, and we can take another murderer off the street. And that's something that, in particular, that is something that would benefit humanity more than that person just being dead. There you go. So, there, and yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much. Mercy on these prisoners, let them live. I don't know that it's mercy to let them live in prison for the rest of their lives. And by the way, to all the let's see, 1 second. There we go. Do we have I mean, there seems to be ever since they shut down a bunch of the Q pages, we have a bunch of them running over here, and I'd like to welcome them here because they can't unhear what I'm telling them, and that's that's an ongoing issue with them, is that they're going to have to face the fact that I'm telling them, especially the Q folks, especially the heavy, conspiracy theory crowd that are, that apparently think Roseanne is making sense these days. Bless her heart. You guys are idiots. And I'm calling you an idiot if you're a Q supporter or you're a believer in any of that stuff, not simply as a pejorative, but because as an idiot, you could stop being an idiot. You know what I mean? You're stupid. You're not ignorant. You're being stupid. You're a stupid person. You're stupid. You're being stupid. And proof positive was earlier today, if you'll recall, many of you who follow me on Twitter will know this, that I posted a, there we go. Let's see if I can find this guy. Here you go. I posted this earlier, that a Republican who quoted Q all over the place and pushed the QAnon conspiracy theory just busted for child porn. And they busted one of the people who work with him for child porn. Because the QAnon conspiracy and all of its enablers are a smokescreen for pedophiles and criminals. That's why it's there. In the same way that Trump always accuses other people of the very things that he's doing, the pedophile community And Donald John Trump, who is, as far as I know, the only president we've ever had on record that has three pedophiles on speed dial. I mean, at one point when Epstein was alive, Donald Trump had in his recent calls list 3 pedophiles. Now, you can think what you want about the other presidents. You can concoct any kind of, bizarre conspiracy theory about what you believe they're like behind closed doors, blood-drinking pizza eaters and whatnot. You can do that. You have no material knowledge of that. You can't. There's nothing to back it up other than your own, fantasies. This is just true. Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Alan Dershowitz. Donald Trump has all 3 of them on speed dial, had talked to them in the same arc of time multiple times in his life. And again, people can make up whatever they want about other political people, and they will, because that's, what else do they have? But understand that there is no arguing with. Trump himself would admit to having called Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Alan Dershowitz all in the same hour multiple times in his life. He's not going to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. And I think what her charges are state charges anyways. If he does it out the door, forget 2024. Just forget it. Arguably he could, if he wanted to, if in his mind, if he thinks he can run in 2024 and that he's actually going to win, he could just pardon her as soon as he becomes president in 2024. That might be his fantasy, But in terms of that, and by the way, I want to thank all the trolls for joining us today, for filling up, being the cantaloupe in our fruit salad, filling out the entire thing, adding to our numbers. It's always good to see you. And my particular favorite ones are the ones who are like, who are you on my own page? And I like to remind you that if you're on my page and you found my page, and you don't know who I am, besides IMDb and a Google search, which could solve that for you, I would like to tell you that more directly, I'm the person who's eating your time. I'm eating it right now. It's delicious. And you'll never get it back. Because money, maybe. Material objects, possibly. But time, there's no refunds. And instead of going over and, rewatching Trump's rallies from March, where you can go, what, he was right, there really was only 15 cases and went away. You're here. You're here watching me. And you're ticking up my algorithm numbers, which I'm watching on an insight chart. Just start ticking up over the course of the show. It's really kind of neat to watch. It's like, it's like having a stock exchange thing, but about your own show, kind of running all the time. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is working. All right. And that's why, by the way, all the friendlies out there, I'd like to remind you, share the show. Share it out to other people. That's one of the things that spikes it out. And I appreciate that greatly. But the trolls themselves, half of them are actually punching up my numbers in a way that ultimately financially benefit me and the Democratic Party, who benefits from the boost that I give their supporters, both in mood and in content. So thanks. I would like to thank you guys for your service. And by your service, trolls, I want to thank you for servicing me. All right, so here we go. Let's start with let's start with this. Okay, so see if you can see what's wrong with the case here. This is on Steve Bannon's War Room. And by the way, I don't know if there is a human being you would want to go to war with, on your side, having your back, less than Steve Bannon. First of all, I guarantee anybody listening to the sound of my voice can outrun him, much less carrying a pack. Honestly, the dude's going to take a knee 20 feet into charging the hill. It's just not helpful. I mean, honestly, these are the people, right? These are the people who are, this is the guy who has War Room on. You can tell he means War Room because he's got on a hunting jacket for hunting liberal tears, which he milks or something. And you can tell it's a real hunting jacket because it has a cell phone pocket from 1995 on there. You know this thing smells like gin and BO. It's amazing. And Rudy's never looked better. But on his War Room, he has some of the testimony. And this is the first thing I got to on this. I was just like, scanning ahead. I was like, is the Rudy interview in this piece? Is there more of it than what we saw today? So I scanned through the whole episode, and it's not. The whole piece with Rudy is on the other thing, I think. So anyways, I scanned through, and I'm like, okay, this is the first testimony, not just him yammering. And, people in glass houses, I understand. I've been yammering this whole show. But, my show, right? Trolls, how you doing? So listen to this guy's argument. Let me see if I've got it queued up right.
But those caregivers have betrayed their trust.
Okay, hold on. So back up real quick. Hold on. Where is he? There we go. Okay. So they come back from commercial. War Room with a biohazard element. So his idea of war is chemical warfare, biological warfare, biowarfare. Hi, Murph. You can't come in, buddy. The cat's going to open the door. He's going to open the door. The door is shut. The cat's going to open the door. Come on in, Murph. Come on. The door. You can do it. All right. Maybe not. He just went, which means he's walking away. He's just over it. I don't know. So let's be abundantly clear that when Steve Bannon says war room, he means biological warfare. Probably, gassing children. That's Steve Bannon's idea of war. Basically, you just get rid of. That's the way you can keep the real estate. You know what I mean? That's why bio. And by the way, why people go, what's the difference biowarfare and just bombing people? One's bad, the other one's well, there's a price for an invading army when they bomb someplace, meaning that they have to, if they want to occupy the place, rebuild everything. They have to rebuild the infrastructure. There's a cost to it, and therefore they might think twice about blowing up hospitals and water plants and shit like that. But if you can just gas everybody, you just walk in, take the buildings. Everything's pristine after the wind blows. That's why the distinction in the Geneva Convention between the two. It's just nice to point that out. Now, granted, Steve Bannon doesn't give a shit, and he's perfectly fine with you using ricin, I guess. This is his warroom.ricin.
Susan said, quote,
Susan.
She told me I really wanted to vote for Trump, but a staff member at her home told me, no, he's a bad man. We're voting for Biden.
Okay, so a staff member at the home made an old lady who wanted to vote for Trump vote for Biden. Listen to the rest of this.
And the staff member instructed her to vote for Biden, so she did, but she wasn't happy about it.
Did she put a cigarette out on her, or?
None of us should be happy about this.
I'm not happy about that. I mean, I'm presuming it even happened, according to you. But let's presume it did. Listen to this.
These are severely cognitively and developmentally impaired people who rely on their caregivers for everything.
This is the Trump base. Run that by me again. A woman who is severely cognitively impaired desperately wanted to vote for Donald Trump. And a person who keeps her alive, allegedly, according to this guy, said, no, he's a bad man. We're going to vote for Biden. I'll help you do it. And she didn't want to do it, largely because she's severely cognitively impaired. This This is what they're making. This is, I mean, if without the cognitively, I love the cognitively impaired. How long before Trump says that? Listen to this again.
Of us should be happy about this.
Hold on.
Voting for Biden. She told me I really wanted to vote for Trump, but a staff member at her home told me, no, he's a bad man. We're voting for Biden. And the staff member instructed her to vote for Biden, so she did, but she wasn't happy about it. None of us should be happy about this. These are severely cognitively and developmentally impaired people who rely on their caregivers for everything. Okay.
First of all, hearsay on hearsay. That's not important, but that's why this isn't in court, and this is why no one's under oath. Secondly, I'm supposed to believe that this woman was who's severely cognitively and mentally impaired, was capable of making this argument to some other person who God knows why they were there. They cut that part of it off, curiously enough, in the beginning of this. Why this person was going through interviewing cognitively impaired people and instructing them that they really wanted to vote for Trump and that was a bad thing that they voted for Joe Biden. How are we supposed to break this down? Now, never mind that this, again, is hearsay of hearsay, but this is the argument that the Trump campaign is making, is that a bunch of cognitively impaired people wanted to vote for Trump and they were denied. And that was that's what tipped it. And it doesn't say where they are, but I'm guessing it's Georgia, because they're all in on Georgia, because that's where that's Texas's lawsuits against, it's the primary one, because they think Georgia's Republican run, so maybe. So, House SCOTUS decision is in and rejected. Well, I would like to say that I called it. Shall we return to this? Hold on one second. Earlier today, there was since we'll go back to how, and I wasn't, I wasn't particularly mean about it on any front. I wasn't, an asshole particularly, and though I certainly can be. And where is it? Yeah, here it is. So, nope, there we go. Earlier today, Hercules, Kevin Sorbo, the world's skinniest Hercules. If we're going to do it, care to, create some sort of sliding scale of how big you should be as Hercules. Now, granted, demigods do not actually have to have any muscle mass at all, as they are post-temporal or anti-temporal, depending on how you view it, non-humans who are powerful for super reasons, which is why Wonder Woman doesn't need triceps. So for all the people like, she's not muscular enough. She's not a woman. She's a demigod. They can shapeshift. It doesn't matter. They're taking on a human form is simply so that they can interact with human beings. It's not because they actually have them. If you're a demigod, never mind. Don't get me started. So, oh my God, Murph, you did it. Hi, buddy. He did it. He opened the goddamn door. So, what are you doing, buddy? Are you going to open that closet door too? There's nothing in there. That's where the printer is. Hold on. I'm going to grab him. Yeah, you got to see him. Hold on. Hi, buddy. What are you doing? Oh, don't run out now. Where are you going? Oh, now you're going to run off. All right. Well, I'm shutting the door again. If you want to come in, you got to open it yourself. All right. He ran off right as I was coming towards him. He's like, meow. Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. I met my girlfriend in a magic show, so there's no surprise that our cat's an escape artist. But Kevin Sorbo tweeted 5 hours ago, the Supreme Court will rule in favor of Texas! Super excited, guys. It's going to be great. And I just simply replied, nope. Not being an asshole about it, not going, you're stupid. I didn't do any of that stuff. I just went, nope. Sorry, bruh. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I just nope. And Between me and Hercules, who was right? Between me and star of fake Christian movies, who was correct? Thanks very much. Thank you again. Thanks so much. Yeah, so let's take a look, shall we? Let's see. SCOTUS rules. SCOTUS rules, Texas. They haven't even had time to write it. It's still just on Twitter. That's how fast shit is today. Yep, there it is. SCOTUS. There it is. SCOTUS just rejected Trump's, there it is. Sedition case rejected by SCOTUS. Here we go. This is the actual order. At least they got more than a sentence this time, you know? Come on. The state of Texas's motion for leave to file a bill of complaint is denied for lack of standing. What a surprise. Exactly how everyone said. Under Article 3 of the Constitution, you know that piece of paper they pretend to give a shit about? Texas has not demonstrated a judicially cognizable interest in the manner in which another state conducts its elections. Meaning that their argument, if it can even be called an argument at all, was cognitively deficient. All other pending motions are dismissed as moot, which is one of my favorite words to see written in print, by the way. Moot. Statement of Justice Alito, with whom Justice Thomas joins. Ouch. In my view, we do not have discretion to deny the filing of a bill of complaint in a case that falls within our original jurisdiction. See Arizona v. California, 589 U.S., February 24, 2020. Thomas J. dissenting. Are you surprised? I would therefore grant the motion to file the bill of complaint, but would not grant other relief. I express no other view on any other issue. Cowardice. And then they moved on to a Goldman Sachs versus Arkansas teacher retirement. I'm guessing they mismanaged the pension fund and were sued, and then this is their appeal. Texas v. Pennsylvania et al., meaning all you bastards. Goodbye. And for the record, who called it? 7 million Biden votes win, 306 electoral votes. No way the Texas Supreme Court case goes forward. All the state cases fail. Now, more than likely, because this just happened, when we go to, I know everybody's just like, it's just the gloat. And by the way, I am not the goat. I am the gloat. The greatest lover of all time. Yes? I'm the gloat. Because I'm the gloat. After sex, I always go, you're welcome. Right. Yeah, that's the idea. All right. So, that's it. That's the whole thing. Yep. Half a page. They got more than a sentence, half a page. Told you. Oh, look at that. According to Talking Points memo, SCOTUS rejects the Texas suit. They rejected it. I do typos all the time, but I don't do it in headlines. I do it on Twitter because I'm going really fast, and I'm like, shit, I left a word out. We all do that, but this is... By the way, if I was ever president, when I'm president, I'm going to have probably, might not be a person by then. It might be an AI thing that will run my tweets by me again, like a kind of Siri situation where it's like, You left out a word here. Did you mean to grammatically? And like, no, I'm being artistic. Okay, cool. Or, I said ain't for a reason. I don't usually use ain't, but yeah. Yeah. JC, this is still insane. SCOTUS order in the Texas case, Alito and Thomas would have allowed filing, but would not grant other relief. Yeah, they would have let him bring it up, but they would have also gone, no. Yeah, walk it in here, parade it around, but we're not going to, yeah. Psst. Ouch. The flailing that is going to be going on is going to be extraordinary. Criminy. And thank you guys. Thanks for the Venmo. I guess that's a being right benefit. You're like, thanks for being right again. And to the trolls and everybody who's watching, I'm glad you could be with us for this. You could have been anywhere else. You could have been on Trump's feed going, pearls of wisdom. Or, oh my God, he's retweeting a clip from Fox and Friends and Newsmax that I watched myself earlier today. We're like this. You could have been there, but you're not. You're here, and I appreciate it. So I can tell you that the Supreme Court, including the people that Trump put on the actual Supreme Court, rejected the Texas suit as not having standing and as being a big goddamn waste of time. Hi. How are you? All right, so these people are still arguing this. Okay, literally, it's like going back to the oven after the cake is already burned and going, oh, well, you know what? We're eating out. I have 1,100 viewers on Facebook. Look at that. Crazy. Imagine if all those people who were real people and not bots and professional trolls recommended the show to their friends on other sites as well. I'm just saying. So here's Steve Bannon interviewing the crack, and I do mean smoking, legal team of Giuliani, boils, and tongue noise. God damn, this is gross. But at least he's relaxing. He's dressed as, this is Rudy Giuliani going as Jim Jordan for Halloween. Jesus.
Statement. The reason we wanted to start with the cold open.
Yeah, start with the cold open. Get in there, because you want to do this before you try to sell more My Pillows.
In Georgia, you made a very, I think, powerful statement that people that deny this are either blind or they're lying.
Or you're blind or lying. And by the way, I'm going to go in the case of Steve Bannon lying, and with Rudy Giuliani, I'm going to go with a combination of blind and lying. He's blinding. He's blying.
About the voter fraud that went on and the election fraud that went on. Now we're before, the Supreme Court now. The arguments from Texas, 17 or 18.
Oh, look at that. Steve Bannon. He just gave you the finger. Look at that. I'm not one for hidden conspiratorial hand gestures. Just because Obama did this a bunch and it was an Illuminati hand gesture, and then Trump does it and it's suddenly like, this is just where you put your fingers. Rudy, just like, did Rudy already have the ruling from it and from the Supreme Court, and was just like, fuck, dude, don't bring it up. Gah.
Because briefs, I think a couple of people have jumped in as into that lawsuit also.
Yeah, I was going to join this afternoon, but it literally didn't last long enough, and I'm not kidding. I was going to file an amicus brief with the Supreme Court to join Texas's lawsuit, representing the great spaghetti monster, and as its duly designated Earth representative, that democracy in and of itself is an attempt to seize power from our alien overlords. Cite U.S. v. Israeli Special Intelligence UFO Squad A1 clearance.
Right, and you've got President Trump has intervened.
Mm-hmm. That's probably what did it.
John Eastman, and we know Eastman was working for many, many weeks on this. You guys were...
You know what he was working for many, 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 many weeks on? Keeping gay people from getting married. All those people who are just sleeping around and having all this immoral sex, and spreading disease and have a history of being, just slutty male on male action all over the place. Yeah, he was fighting to keep them from getting in monogamous relationships and staying there. For tax purposes.
We're thinking this through. The counter arguments came back. Essentially, every state in the union looks like it's now. We're going to put a map up later. You got the map that shows that basically the states are divided on this.
Yeah, they're divided not 50-50. Yeah. And certainly not by population. You know what? What I can guarantee, though, and they probably won't compare these two, and Steve Bannon, not that he wouldn't, is that he just mentally can't, is that the states that signed on to the Trump lawsuit also, you'll see, have an increasing death toll due to COVID and a rising case rate that outpaces all the states that were against it.
You've got, I think, 18, 19, I think Idaho came in last night, 19 states supporting Texas.
Oh, shit. Idaho?
A bunch, I think 14 states came in supporting Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin and Georgia. Where do you think we stand? Well, I want to first off...
Yeah, Rudy, tell them how this... Now that we're going back in the Wayback Machine, Rudy, tell us how the SCOTUS is going to rule today.
Where do you stand? Where do you believe we actually...
The constant eye flaring that Rudy does.
Where do you think we stand? Well, I want to first off, where do you stand? Where do you believe we actually stand with the Supreme Court actually taking this up and starting to review this weekend? Where do you think we stand with this whole thing?
Tell them, Rudy. I want to hear it. Tell us how much hope we have, and people should continue. And by the way, before he answers, trolls, forget what you heard about the SCOTUS kicking this down. Trump still has a chance, so it's not too late to send all of your money to MAGA.com or TrumpWarRoom.org or buy hats for America or however he's doing it. Send all your money until you've spent $8,000. It's not helping. You still got a chance, and your only chance is if you mail. Especially if you get a COVID check, if they finally get some sort of stimulus through, you want to take that check immediately. Take it. Don't send it to the federal government to help pay for PPE and stuff like that. That would help all Americans. Take it. Just sign it over and mail it straight to Mar-a-Lago. I mean, that'll save yourself some time.
This is a very, very novel case.
Yes, it is. I would take this case and I would put it on a rack in a toy store right next to novelty cat vomit, novelty turds, fart spray, snapping gum.
There's no lawyer that can give you a definitive opinion on whether it's going to be taken or not.
Well, I'm not a lawyer, that's true. But I gave you a definitive figure that it was absolutely not. I said it. I didn't say, no, well, maybe if it could, blah, 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 back and forth. No, I didn't say that, did I? And all along, I've said, not gonna fucking happen. Not going to happen. And it didn't. You're welcome.
It's going to be decided. We've had states suing each other.
Yeah. Over what? Transportation bills and highways? Shit. Idaho built their side of the freeway, and it's 6 miles off from where we built ours. God damn it. Who's going to pay for this?
I was mayor. Actually, New Jersey sued New York for part of Ellis Island. It was kind of a fun case.
Yeah, it's hilarious. You know why? Because New Jersey wanted part of the revenue of people going to the Statue of Liberty. And a lot of people take the boats out from there. You can go from Manhattan or you can go from New Jersey. And they were like, well, we're kind of equal amount of traffic going there. And it's a national monument.
We split it in half.
Uh-huh.
But we've never had a lawsuit like this over the unfairness of an election.
The alleged unfairness of an election, or the attempt, by the way, of a state like Texas to indeed force the election to be unfair. Because let's understand, Texas is not suing Georgia because Georgia voted the way they did. Texas is suing Georgia for not voting the way Texas did, which is bananas.
Of states treated another group of states unfairly in the unequal and illegal practices they conducted during the election. So let's start off with the fact that it did happen.
No, it didn't.
I mean, the myth that there was no fraud.
There was no fraud. Well, that's not true. Again, there was fraud. A couple of Trump voters voted for their dead parents and faked ballots for their dead parents for Trump. They've been arrested.
Myth. There was fraud. And the reason I point that out with the tape is you just can't avoid the tape in Atlanta, Georgia. It goes on for 8 hours.
It's 14 hours. You cut out 8 hours. And you sped through 3 hours of it.
Shows that they surreptitiously closed down the center.
No, they didn't.
Got rid of all the observers.
No, they didn't.
They made sure all the doors were locked.
No, they didn't. Your own people came back in later. They played the goddamn video. We've seen this. They showed it to the Georgia Assembly. They present, our evidence. Go back and watch it. Anybody. Don't watch it how I took it apart. Go watch it on your own. Go find somebody on YouTube who's printed the whole goddamn tape. And go to the end, after they finish tabulating all the votes that have been counted until they stop the counting, continue the tabulating, upload the tabulations, which if they don't match the counting, will become evident in a recount. Beyond that, later on, at the very end of it, after they're done, two Republican assholes come back in with a security guard and go, "There's nobody here."
And then they started
Doors weren't locked.
Ballots out. They were scurrying around like mice, actually, taking ballots out from under.
Wait, do mice distribute crack and heroin? I'm confused.
Cardboard and under desks.
What? What about cardboard and under desks?
Cardboard and.
Hold on. Explain yourself.
Got rid of all the observers. They made sure all the doors were locked. And then they started taking ballots out. They were scurrying around like mice, actually, taking ballots out from under cardboard and under desks.
Under cardboard and under desks. Under cardboard. Under cardboard. Okay. COVID brain is real.
And running around to various remote locations to count them.
Oh my gosh. So what were the 5 people you were videotaping? They stayed there all night on camera. They were there for 2 hours. And then after they left, they didn't go home and sleep and come back the next day like all evidence shows they did. They scurried off to obscure locations to count ballots, presumably by hand.
And doing it quickly and swiftly so nobody would see it.
Well, how do you scurry off to undisclosed locations swiftly?
It was clearly an illegal operation.
Clearly an illegal operation. Which is, why it was in front of a giant bay window carried out by people in bright yellow and purple shirts on camera in a well-lit room.
And when you look at the numbers counted during that operation.
You mean 0? 0. And by the way, he's about to say 18,000 to 24,000 votes were counted during that.
Here's the other thing about it.
Okay, here was what the other thing.
Check, the calculations. Just during that operation alone, that one video, they stole an election. There were enough votes stolen during that period of time to change the results in Georgia.
No. He's presuming that he saw what he wanted to see, not what he really saw, and then he's extrapolating the highest possible number of fraudulent votes counted in that time period, which none were counted Those were tabulation documents. Those were the ones that Kornacki gets. And he's presuming that, and then assuming the presumption is real, and then offering his presumption as evidence, and using his presumptive evidence as the focal point of his legal argument for why everyone in an entire county's votes should be tossed out only because that county went for Biden.
It was won by Biden by about 10 or 11,000 votes during that period of time.
But Mayor, here's why people's heads are blowing up. If that's so definitive, and look, you were
it isn't. That's the if. If is a big word when you get into in the legal realm.
You ran the Southern District of New York back in the days when it was run properly.
Yeah, back when and by the way, it's not like Steve Bannon's ever been pro-Russian oligarchy or anything like that. It's not like Rudy Giuliani ran the the New York Justice Department when it was, eating parts of the low-ranking Italian mob and allowing the Russian mob to move in and the Chinese to start buying up huge swaths of New York real estate. None of that happened, right?
You put the mob away. You put.
Well, there's a couple of mobs. Obviously, you didn't put the triad away.
Wall Street Mafia away with Milken. You're one of the most renowned prosecutors in the history of the country. If what you say is fact, and Rudy,
yeah, narrator, it isn't.
Giuliani's sitting there going, "Hey, this is a fact now. You can see it right there for 8 hours."
It's not a fact. It's not a fact.
I can show you for 8 hours.
What? Yeah, I can show you for 8 hours. That's why we fast forwarded from the beginning to the end and left out the middle.
Is the Republican, last time I looked, they're not a bunch of progressive crazies in Georgia. You have a Republican Secretary of State. Mm-hmm. You have a Republican Attorney General. You have a Republican Lieutenant Governor. And you have a Republican.
I think Rudy's eyes flare every time a detail that eats into his argument shows up, like the prime word in it, like Republican. He'll watch his eyes and understand there's a delay. He's not directly lined up. There's a momentary delay. So whatever the word was is like a second behind.
Governor, why don't, if it's so obvious and so evident, and
if it's so obvious and evident, oh shit.
You're either blind or you're lying. Why are people called Republicans your biggest foes? The biggest foes you have in Georgia are not Stacey Abrams. That's second tier, second order foe. Your biggest foe is the administration in Georgia, and quite frankly, a lot of these not terribly brave people in the House of Representatives and the state Senate.
Not terribly brave. Apparently they're not terribly brave.
It's a source of great amazement to me, Steve.
Says the easily baffled Rudy Giuliani.
I have no idea.
I have some idea.
What's going on with them? I can't. I don't know if I can attribute it to stubbornness, personal anger.
Yeah. Why won't they just admit I'm Napoleon? I've got the hat. I've stuffed my hand in my shirt. I'm standing on what I believe to be the bow of a ship. Why in the world don't they understand?
At President Trump, anti-Trumpism, corruption.
Anti-Trumpism, corruption. Like that's a thing.
Dominion is a very corrupt company. They buy a lot of people.
They buy a lot of people. Now, one would think that I think the easiest thing for the Barr Justice Department to do, and largely as a part of the perfunctory election protections that go on, they could check if the people from Dominion through any sources had bought a lot of people. So the idea that, does Brian Kemp have a new boat called Dom 1?
There's so many possibilities.
And there's so many, yes, it's true. It's true. There's so many possibilities. They could have sent pterodactyls to steal the babies of Republicans and held them for ransom on Skull Mountain. That could have possibly happened. There's all sorts of there also they could have all been sent gnomes to stand in their yards and pretend to be fixtures, and then at night sneak in and hold a AR-15 to their head and threaten them with death if they don't be anti-Trump corrupt. Or I guess the other one is that Rudy Giuliani and Trump and Steve Bannon could all be sharing the same tube of glue that they're sniffing.
Good reason for it, Steve. No good reason for it. It's like
no good reason. Okay. Well, I am not going to slow Rudy Giuliani down from saying that Republicans are no good. I'm just going to leave that right there.
Do you think?
And by the way, it's Biden who can't speak.
No good reason for it. It's like when you ask me the question.
Do you think?
This is the dance remix of Steve Bannon speaking.
For it, Steve. No good reason for it. It's like when you ask me the question.
Do you think part of it's because of this consent decree that they never thought would come public, and now that it's exposed and everything that you got?
Yeah, they never thought the consent decree, which is on file and was argued in public and publicly signed, and is part of. All right.
Showing on at least the mail-in fraud and about the signatures.
You mean the part where they added another layer of inspection to the signature process in the consent decree because they knew they'd be dealing with a lot more mail-in votes? You mean that part in Georgia where Brian Kemp, the Republican, tried to make it harder for people to vote by mail because they knew Biden voters would do that more often by a factor of 70 to 30 over Republicans?
Them is because they've never stepped forward and actually explained the consent decree. This isn't something that you guys have gone in.
They don't have to explain it. Read the frigging thing. It's online.
Depth on, but they've never wanted to talk about it.
They don't have to talk about it. It's your show. You have a microphone. He's filing cases against it. Read the goddamn thing. Rudy's got all these stupid folders sitting around. He doesn't have a copy of the consent decree that they signed. I'll tell you, you want to know the real answer? You want to know the real answer? Yeah, he does. He's seen it. But if he reads it out loud, the people that listen to him read it out loud will do the same thing that happened when he reads the section of the Constitution that they think backs up his argument. That whole bullshit about Section 2, 1.3, where it says that they may choose the manner by which they choose the electors. Oh, shit, that eats my case right in half. The same thing is true of the consent decree. If they read it out loud, and Rudy is very pale. I mean, A, he's not orange, which is different for them. But secondly, he's in some sort of a hospital suite getting COVID treatment.
Is it that?
No, I think the consent decree is also part of the whatever problem they have.
No, the consent decree is the problem that you have. Otherwise, you would have a copy of it and you would read it out loud. You would go, look at this bullshit. I'm just saying, anybody listening to the sound of my voice, if the root of your argument where you think the election was stolen based on a particular piece of legislation that is in the public record, as all legal writings must be, I guess short of where CIA black sites are operated out of or some shit, that the consent decree that Kemp signed with the Secretary of State and the legislature about how they were going to deal with the onslaught of mail-in ballots and how they were going to make sure that everybody had enough ballots because they were afraid that Trump was going to talk all of his supporters out of voting by mail, and then ultimately they'd be the last ones to do it, and there'd be a lot of mismatched and screwed up stuff because they weren't prepared to do it because they were hostile to the idea in the first place, and it would undercut the Republican vote in the state of Georgia. They wrote that consent decree to protect them, to help Republicans. And if Rudy gets a copy of it and holds it up and says, look what this thing says, it urinates all over his stupid case.
I don't think if they were straight-thinking, normal Republicans, they would have entered the consent decree.
Yeah, if they were straight thinking. Okay, so that's what it is. Raffensperger, Kemp, gay lovers, clearly they've been to, summer camp with Mike Pence, something sketchy. Rudy doesn't trust him. That's why Eastman was chosen, the anti-gay, anti-gay marriage lawyer is the only one representing the Trump administration, or Trump himself as an individual, in the SCOTUS ruling, which got, chucked out.
I think the consent decree was a sellout to the Democrats.
Yeah, that's what it was. Because Kemp's just been lining up to sell out to Democrats. That's why he stole the election from Stacey Abrams, because he didn't think Stacey Abrams would give the Democrats enough.
And I think this is just a further sellout to the Democrats.
Yeah, how much further can you go? I mean, isn't Kemp basically a Democrat at this point? Didn't he just get the president coffee most of the time? Does he really? I don't even know the guy. I mean, Trump campaigned for him, but he barely knows the guy.
Now, exactly what the game is, I'm sorry, Steve, I don't know. But,
there isn't one. There is no game. That's the problem. You're looking for a game where there is none. You have showed up at the stadium on a Friday, and everybody's like, what are you doing here? Where's the game? This is concert night. Sure it is.
Baffles me like it baffles me how they covered up the Hunter Biden thing all during the election, and now all of a sudden it's coming out.
It's not coming out. Barr is going after Hunter under direction of the president. That will collapse as well. Durham's report, he had plenty of time to write it before. He can't find anything, so he's just doing a jerk around for Trump until he leaves office. And the Hunter Biden laptop thing only proves one thing is possible, is that the Russians front-loaded criminal activity and child porn, apparently, according to Rudy Giuliani, onto a hard drive, handed it to him, said, tell people this is from Hunter Biden, but you might want to keep it close to you. So sleep with a hard drive under your pillow that has child porn on it. You've done it before. Go ahead.
How could that have been covered up?
It wasn't.
Talk about that. You were the drive.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about Hunter.
In back of the hard drive from hell, the thing that put this on starting.
It was the laptop from hell. Get it right. Wasn't the hard drive from hell. The laptop, according to Trump, it was the laptop. Am I the only person paying attention? I'm beginning to think that Steve Bannon has watched fewer Trump rallies than I have.
October 14th, as you know, the work we had to do to work with people and make sure that technologically they knew that this was not Russian disinformation. That's all a lie, right? And Barr let this happen. How did Bill Barr, the Attorney General of the United States, suppress the information that...
Yeah, what is going on? Is he in league with Kemp and Stacey Abrams? How did Stacey Abrams con Bill Barr into chloroforming Durham before he could release it? I'm losing consciousness trying to figure out their bullshit. How do you explain yourself? What?
Change the election to know that this is not about Hunter Biden. This is about the Biden family, including Joe Biden, being compromised by the Chinese Communist Party.
How? That was never the allegation. That wasn't even Rudy's allegation. And if you're going to talk about compromise by the Chinese Communist Party, then why did Trump get a payment into his Chinese bank account right after he scuttled TPP, which would have drastically affected China's bottom line? Why did he let, China allegedly, according to him, attack us with a bioweapon because he thinks COVID, they let it happen. They could have stopped it, but they didn't. They're to blame. They sent it here. These are all his words. And what did he do in response to the greatest attack? The virus, yeah, even our trolls are like, the virus came from China. Yeah, and Trump is arguing that they sent it here, they let it get in, they let it out, they stopped it from spreading in China, but they let it spread over here to attack us. So it's the greatest bioweapon attack in the history of the world. It happened under Trump's watch. 250,000 Americans died. And what was Trump's response? Signed a trade deal with them and sold them the largest shipment of corn, soybeans, and beef they've ever purchased.
Business with his brother being the brains.
Because that's what you do when you think a country has attacked you with a bioweapon. The president did nothing to stop it. He was like, it's 15 cases, it's probably nothing. It's probably nothing. It probably didn't really, it's not going to be a big deal. It's like one old lady and she's sick and, it's probably, she would have died of something else anyways, even though it was a dude and he died. She's going to get better. That whole business. Trump is the Chamberlain of bioweapon attacks. If the Nazis had bombed us during World War II and Trump had been president, his response would have been to sell them all the sausage in the country.
Operation. Have you identified forever? Now we get the thing that the Western District of Pennsylvania, where, correct me if I'm wrong,
You're wrong.
That's where Rudy Giuliani schlepped up to with a former U.S. prosecutor from North Carolina and made a, 5-hour, 6-hour presentation. I've seen the presentation. It's 2 feet thick about the crime family of the Biden crime family. Well, how did this get suppressed?
How did it get suppressed? How in the world did it get suppressed? 5-hour presentation, papers available online. Rudy could put all this on his website. He could break this down every goddamn day. He has a show on his own website, Rudy's Common Sense. We've covered it several times. A bunch of times, he's like, I got new evidence on Hunter Biden. We're going to deal with it today. And after selling us home title lock and cigars and fish oil and dick pills, at the end of it, he's like, you know what? Tomorrow. I'll have the evidence tomorrow. I'll have the evidence tomorrow.
January of this year. January of this year, we went to Pittsburgh. We've got a wonderfully warm reception from the U.S. Attorney.
A wonderfully long reception. So he bought you dinner, is what you're saying, because he's a Trumper? Gotcha.
His staff in the U.S. Attorney's office. We thought we were going to have a 1-hour meeting. We had something like a 4-hour meeting. They were extremely inquisitive.
They're just so curious. We're like, yeah, we've been sitting here for 2 hours. Maybe if we give you another 2 hours, we'll understand what the fuck you're talking about. Because no one does.
Asked all the right questions, and they were appropriately enthusiastic, as prosecutors would be, about what is a very, very numerous group of hot cases.
A very, very numerous group of hot cases. It's just so... The grasp of language, the prosaic nature of how
And then all of a sudden, the wind came out of their sails, and we never heard anything from them.
Huh. It's almost like they went, oh, let's say, thanks a lot. That's what we asked you all of our questions. We went through it several times. You can't say we didn't ask. We asked all the right questions. We went through shit. We went back and we checked your shit, and it doesn't check out. It's a bunch of friggin' garbage, actually. And quite frankly, we've seen more logic come out of Roseanne's YouTube channel than your legal proceeding. We talked to the FBI. They told us in a briefing that none of what you're saying exists on the laptop itself. We'd love to throw ourselves under a bus for you, Rudy, but we want to actually have careers. We want to actually have a life after this instead of scuttling democracy for Donald John Trump, a dude who, wouldn't piss on us if we were on fire.
They interviewed one witness, a rather insignificant introductory witness.
Why would you even you didn't bring the big witnesses with you? What insignificant introductory witnesses are there? Let me guess. They couldn't get a hold of the blind Delaware computer shop owner or or Hunter's pop psychologist shrink that was on Fox that was kicked off for attempting to fuck or fucking his patients. That guy? Was he the introductory one? Those were your two key witnesses. Of course, their testimonies completely contradict each other, but let's not bring that up.
They didn't interview some of the witnesses, one of whom was in jeopardy, who we.
Did they win or did they come in second? Was it Celebrity Jeopardy? Because I'm just saying, maybe I know them. I could help you out if they were on Celebrity Jeopardy. I mean, I was on Celebrity Jeopardy and I did win $50,000 for Doctors Without Borders. There's two of us on here who are well-known public figures, and only one of the people on your screen right now has won $50,000 on Jeopardy for Doctors Without Borders. Just saying. Just floating that out there.
very, very hard to get them to.
I can't help but think that that $50,000 saved at least one life, helped somebody out. You know, and if that's my legacy, just that one little thing, and God knows there's a lot more, I feel good about what I've done.
Because she was truly in fear of her life.
We haven't done the Trump University, the rest of the Trump University stuff. We've got that. It's, oh, believe me, it's in the wings.
And they never made a single move that we knew of.
It's weird. They listened to us talk for 5 hours. They asked all the right questions. They listened to in person to one of our preemptive witnesses. They went through, they took a copy of our presentation, which was a foot thick, according to, which I don't know, that's a foot. I feel sorry for whoever Bannon promises penis to, that this is a foot, according to him. 9 inches would be 6, would 3. That's just sad. Like, it's just like, Steve, I mean, no offense, but it looks like a coat button. Sorry. Rudy. I can't, sorry.
To corroborate what we were saying. We weren't asking them to believe us.
No. Who does a 5-hour presentation asking people to believe you?
We were asking them to.
By the way, I'm asking you to believe me. I respect that you will at some point, if you question anything I say, go check it out. And if I'm ever wrong, you go, hey, you were wrong about this thing. I'm going to go, well, thank you for informing me of that. I will choose not to be wrong in the future. You know, like a fucking adult. But I definitely present my views in life from a position of, I want you to believe me, because I wouldn't even say them if I didn't believe them myself. Why would you even bring them up? Much less do a 5-hour on paper plus video depo presentation to lawmakers, but I don't expect them to believe me. I mean, why would they?
Interview these 50 or 60 witnesses, look at the tape recordings, look at the documents. We had one document, Steve, that documents a $14 million money laundering transaction. Stone cold.
Stone cold. $14 million money laundering transaction. Stone cold document. Where is it?
It is the document. It shows you the 3 banks.
Hold it up. It's your interview. Tell us the details. You don't have to go, we have a document that says $14 million was, I mean, it's stone cold. Totally caught. Totally caught. I mean, it's just stone cold. There's no question. Right? Well, then, to whom? From whom? For what? What does the paper say, Rudy? Don't just drop a goddamn number and walk away like that. Well, I don't expect you to believe me. Why would I? We have a piece of paper. It's right here. I'm not going to leave it with you. I'm going to take it home. But trust me, that's what it shows. Like, that's been their case. You're going to tell, we're going to find out by the end of this stupid interview that foot long, 2 foot thick. Didn't he say 2 foot? He did, I think. 2 foot thick. Which, doing Rudy Giuliani and Steve Bannon's math, makes literally Steve Bannon's dick this big. And that's what he's promising you'll get, ladies. 2 foot thick document. He walked up there, gave a 5-hour presentation with a preliminary witness who didn't really matter, but they brought him along anyways. But they only asked them. They only reached out to the one person that we brought up first. But it was a preliminary. You know, you don't lead with your best witness, because why would you do that? You want to waste as much time as possible and go, in my hip pocket, I have a witness you are not going to believe. It's not a friggin' series you're trying to get people to binge watch, asshole. It's your legal case. It's your demo tape. You lead with the hit, moron. We got this 2 foot thick document list. It's like 2 feet thick. Did you leave it with him? Did you leave him a copy? No, we took it home. But we had a piece of paper in there that proves a $14 million bribery scheme and money laundering. Really? $14 million? From whom to who? You just trust me.
Through the banks. Shows you how it was disguised as a loan. It shows you how it ends up with the Biden family.
It was disguised as a loan? You mean a $14 million loan that they got and then paid back?
I was, I was startled when I left. I mean, in fact, when I left,
You were startled when you left. Why? Did they tell you to get the fuck out? Seriously, you were startled when you left? He just said earlier that he left and then they didn't follow up. They only followed up with what were you startled about? That you thought it was going to be 2 hours and they let you stay for 5?
with my lawyer, we were
You're a lawyer.
very, very
I
excited
thought you were a lawyer.
when I left. I mean, in fact, when I left with my lawyer, we were very, very excited. We said, finally, after 2 years, somebody's taking us seriously.
And it turned out they weren't.
Earlier, this information had been brought to the 7th District a year and a half earlier, and they sat on it and did
Is that what they did? Well, I mean, it's a huge stack. They just used it as a stool.
nothing about it. So everything we're looking at now as he begins the presidency, all of this could have been done 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, it's weird. It's almost like the executive order about drug prices. Trump could have done that 2 years ago. Why didn't he? Oh, I know why. Because it won't stand up in court and it'll get thrown out. But if he does it right before the election, it can look as if he's going to do something, and that the big pharma hates it and they're going to attack him, and he can tell that whole story. And then after the election, it can go away and actually benefit pharma. Yeah. Hal, who do you think you are, Hal Sparks? I'm fairly certain I am.
Begins the what? Begins. Hang on, Mayor. I'm asking you to stay over. I'm going to ask you to stay over, please. There's not going to be a Biden presidency.
Yeah, there is. By the way, to Steve Bannon, who is our new Kevin Sorbo in this, Steve Bannon, yes, there is.
Because the votes were not legal.
Yes, they were.
As we'll get into when we return with America's mayor.
Oh, God. There's more of that shit? I guess I'll have to find it. Meanwhile, God. Let me switch over here. Let me see. Is there a second part to this? Is there like a part 2? That's the good. I'll look this up. I guess so. Hold on 1 second. Steve Bannon, Rudy. Look at that. Filter today. We did that one. Okay. It looks the same, but so does Rudy. Okay, so there's a secondary part of this.
Dedicated much of your life to the Justice Department.
Okay, so this is them coming back. Okay, here we go. There's 8 minutes of this nonsense. Good Lord. Go ahead. Hold on.
To the rule of law and the enforcement of law and the defense
No, he didn't.
of the law.
Based on what? Letting the Russian mob take New York?
Bill Barr
Yeah.
knew this information. People, and by the way,
Whoops. Rudy looks better, I will say, though. He's got more color in his face. He looks happy. He looks like he's in a happier space now. And Rudy, I never thought I'd say this, but your tan lines are very sexy.
it's about Donald J. Trump. It had been leaked in a New York second. It had been Don Jr. or Eric Trump or Ivanka
They had to cut away because they lost him.
or any of his family.
Keep talking, Steve.
It had been a blaring, 7-point headline in the New York Times, followed up by literally weeks and weeks and weeks on Rachel Maddow. But here, if you read the Wall Street Journal and now you read the following the Washington Post, they consciously made a decision because of an election to suppress this information. And
Yeah, they didn't suppress it. They stopped anybody from talking about this kind of stuff 2 weeks before an election because of what happened with Comey last time, and that's the standard operating procedure of the DOJ, and they didn't follow it last time, and it obviously affected the outcome of the election. They were intending on it affecting the outcome of the election. They were trying to create a redo of the Comey, Clinton, maybe there's something to this moment, again, for this election to help Trump because he has no original thoughts, and everything's a goddamn reboot. And so, yeah, we continue.
This is not about Hunter Biden's tax returns. This is about being compromised by the Chinese Communist Party.
Boo-hoo.
Mayor Giuliani, you've seen the hard drive from hell. People come for the porn, but they stay for the compromise.
I mean, I think that explains Rudy's legal plan. What? They what?
Seen the hard drive from hell. People come for the porn, but they stay for the compromise.
Oh, do they now?
Right? You've seen the hard drive from hell. You've seen how
you've seen it. I've seen every frame of the filth on that hard drive twice. And after I look at it again, I'll give you a real definitive opinion.
Is compromise. And you said it. You're the first guy that said it a long time ago. Mm-hmm. This is a crime syndicate family. And Rudy Giuliani knows something.
Totally is. You know why? As I said, it is.
Crime syndicates. He put the 5 families of the mafia away. He broke the mafia in New York City that had never been broken. Rudy.
And then the Russians and the Chinese moved in. And who benefited from that long term? And who teamed up and dressed in drag with Donald Trump and let Donald Trump motorboat him after that fact?
Giuliani did that. Using RICO, he broke the mafia that ran Wall Street under Mike Milken and Ivan Boesky, right? This guy's got a couple of notches on his gun belt. So what do you say, sir? Well, should Bill Barr, let me just cut through it. Should Bill Barr be called over to the Oval Office today to explain himself? And if he doesn't have a great explanation, he should be fired on the spot.
Yes. Yeah, please do that. Donald Trump. And anyone who supports Donald Trump, if you're listening to the sound of my voice, please go to his Twitter feed and instruct him to do that very thing. It will all work out. It's exactly what you want. And if Barr can't do what he's told, he should be fired immediately. Please follow the instructions of Steve Bannon and have him fire Bill Barr immediately. And replace him with Rudy Giuliani.
He should definitely be called over to explain it. The Justice Department should explain that why going way, way back to 2018, when they received information about Biden being involved in bribery and illegal activities in Ukraine. I'm talking about Joseph Biden now.
Oh, you mean the accusations you made on behalf of Trump in an attempt to scuttle the person he feared the most from running and winning the presidency, to try and scare him off from doing it. That part? Yeah, okay.
And as well as Hillary Clinton and a number of other Democrats.
In case basically they gave me a list of people Trump's afraid to run against and would shit himself every time their names came up. And Rudy was sent over to Ukraine and Russia and Italy to try and buy stuff, compromise on them, because they believed that the dossier was a piece of purchased compromise, and that they figured, well, if they did that, we can do that. And even though that's what they didn't do. Yes, his lips are slightly blue, his oxygen levels are poor. That's why he's in the hospital.
Rather than investigate it, they put it aside and decided to investigate Donald Trump instead.
Yeah, that's what they did. Guys, we'd really love to go after these real crimes, but we're so more interested. Barr's Justice Department is so much more interested in chasing down their own boss who gave them their job.
They didn't have time to investigate. And that just stayed there for 2 years, could have been investigated.
Yeah, they didn't have any time for 2 years. It's almost like Trump said there was so much of his time eaten by all these. He could have done so much better if he hadn't been bothered with all this legal stuff. I mean, he golfed more than any president in history by a factor of 5, and all at his own properties where he charged the Secret Service, who were tasked with the job of saving his life, retail, more than the average citizen could get a room at one of his properties so that he could fleece the American taxpayer. But he gives it, don't worry, guys, he gives back his salary. He gives back $400,000 because he's fleecing the U.S. government for $132 million a year. It's like a tip he leaves on the dresser.
Been found out about a long time ago. Now that you have the hard drive, you essentially have a racketeering case that it's a tragedy. a tragedy for my country. I don't think I've ever thought I'd live to see someone possibly going into the White House.
And yes, he's still in the hospital. He's in he's in one of these private hotel-like hospital suites.
I know, as a matter of
That's what that room is. It's the other side of his hospital room.
my professional expertise and the evidence that I have available to me, that he's prosecutable for numerous racketeering charges. Over a course of 30 to 40 years, the family took millions of dollars.
Yeah, and weirdly enough, Obama never spotted it in the vetting process. I mean, he had a lot of choices, but of course, Biden was, of course, the top of the list of people presented to Obama. You know, he was the most, like, he was just a lightning rod. People couldn't wait to line up behind Biden and his...
And there's an admission of it by the son, in which the son explains in a summary that he paid 50% of that money to his father.
No. During the time that he was going through addiction therapy and he was having a real problem with drugs, his parents set up a trust so that 50% of his money that he takes in is managed by them in an account so he can't snort it all, because he was an addict and they were trying to help their addict son. That's his money. He gets it later. But because he was involved in drugs, they were concerned that he would kill himself using all of it to, he'd basically snort it all and die. So they were trying to protect their son during his 20s, which you would do.
Even with all the reminders of it yesterday, no.
This is the amazing thing is that Giuliani knows this part. He knows this. He knows the actual facts about this.
Has the guts to bring that out. Hunter Biden tells his I believe his daughter, you know, over the 30 years, I've always had to kick back 30% to Pop.
No, he didn't. Said the quote you're talking about is 50%, and it was during a specific period of time. And he was complaining that he has to pay for a lot of stuff in the family, and that he paid for one of the family members' college. Now, I don't quite know why, if they had been taking 50% of his money in kickbacks, why Biden wouldn't just pay for the college if he was that rich. What is he putting it away for? Biden is accumulating all this money for what? When he turns 80, he can really blow it on, you know, hookers and blow? Is that what we're talking about? He's going to really buy that big boat when he's 85? Huh?
That's of the illegal money.
Mayor should Bill.
Again, it's the dance remix of Steve Bannon. I don't know what that is.
30% to Pop. That's of the illegal money.
Mayor should Bill.
Mayor.
Or either, if he doesn't do it, should be directed to. Do we need a special prosecutor immediately?
Yeah, totally. Get a special prosecutor. Fire Bill Barr. Replace Durham immediately. Probably do it. Let Matt Gaetz do it, and Devin Nunes. Put them both in charge of it in the last 8 days before the election, and they should just. I mean, they'll have to step down from their congressional seats and run again 2 years from now with no job. But they'll have worked for Trump for 8 days, and what more could you want for from someone to fight back for America?
This Biden family situation. This is not.
Bannon doesn't stutter. He's just gacked up and over talking.
Or this is about James Biden. It's about Joe Biden.
We
have the documents. This is like Alex Jones looks like shit. I'm just saying.
This will probably get me in a whole load of more trouble. But we have someone, attempting to get into the White House.
Are they trying to jimmy a window? This will get me in trouble, but we have someone trying to get into the White House. Asshole, you're the president's lawyer. You are the president's lawyer. What do you mean you're trying to get someone into the White House?
Get me in a whole load of more trouble. But we have someone, attempting to get into the White House who is a career criminal.
Oh, I see. Because Biden, I see.
He spent his life committing crime.
Yeah, that's totally what he did. Especially that whole, cancer moonshot thing. I mean, if you really think about it, Rudy, he probably murdered his wife and daughter and injured his boys just for sympathy. And he probably gave Bo brain cancer while you're at it, just so he could cover for his criminality. It's all the adrenochrome. I think it just kind of, sends off this radiation wave from Biden at all times that gives everybody around him brain cancer. Holy shit.
It goes back to when his brother was shaking down people as a lobbyist for small amounts of money in Delaware.
Lobbyist shaking down people for small amounts of money. You mean being paid as a lobbyist for lobbying for small businesses? Is that what you mean? Because you don't have to shake down Dow Chemical. You don't have to shake down Goldman Sachs for small bits of money.
Has to do with his brother's house deals, the amount of money his brother made in Iraq illegally.
He didn't make that money, and they build houses in Iraq.
Money that he and his
Why haven't the Republicans over the last 18 years that we've been in Iraq and Afghanistan, in any of their reviews of the money spent in Iraq and Afghanistan, come back with, holy shit, James Biden is running off with piles of cash? You don't think they would actually go after that whole hog if they could have? You're kidding me, right?
made in Ukraine. I say he and his son. A lot of that money went to him.
Yeah, just add his kid to it just cause.
Remember the key phrase right from the text. Half the money went to Joe. Half the money went to Joe. They were bagmen.
Well, what did he spend it on? Honestly, what'd Joe spend it on? Rescue dogs? Crate and barrel catalog items? Where is all this buried wealth of the Biden crime family? It's that part's ridiculous. Hi.
Frank's adopted.
Oh, nice.
We'll take him Sunday at 9 a.m.
Okay. Sounds good. Murph, relax. Oh, hi. Yeah, Murph. How are you? No, you came, I know. Yeah, no, he keeps trying to open the door. It's fine. It's good. Murphy came in. Frankie, one of our the ferals that's a little touchy has gotten adopted, so that's good news. He's gonna go to his forever home on Sunday. If I were Biden, I would sue Rudy for defamation. No, you just let it hang because it's so worthless and sad. It's not going anywhere. What you do is ultimately you sue the networks that have him on about it, because they have to defend him. But it's neither here nor there. Section 230.
Hunter Biden is collateral damage. The bad guy here is not Hunter Biden. I mean, he's a bad guy, but he's not the protagonist.
No, he's not the protagonist in this fake story you're making up, Rudy.
Bad guy here is Joe.
Is the president of the United States
Rudy?
chief magistrate?
I feel like I'm watching Car Shield ads. When your car breaks down, it's a crime. Sorry.
Last time I checked, the chief magistrate of the United States, should Bill Barr be directed, if he doesn't on his own volition, should he be directed today to appoint a special prosecutor with full subpoena power to investigate the entire Biden crime syndicate?
Presuming one exists, should taxpayer money be spent chasing these two men and their fart idea, their like fart air ideas that they're passing back and forth, like follow that after you.
Yeah, I mean, the evidence should start to come out right now.
Yeah, it should. I mean, it's not like you've had the hard drive for a year. It's not like you haven't had access to these witnesses for a year. It's not like you're not the president's attorney.
It's there. It isn't as if we got to go discover it.
Yeah, it is. Because everything that you've presented to anyone with half a brain or a desire to live on planet Earth looks at it and goes, yeah, but Rudy, this is a pile of bullshit.
It's sitting in a hard drive.
Mayor, would you volunteer to be that special prosecutor?
Yes. He should. Okay. Bill Barr should be summarily fired, but not before. But not until he creates a special prosecutor to go after the Biden crime family and puts Rudy Giuliani in charge of it. Which, by the way, will never happen.
I'd volunteer to be the special prosecutor. I'd volunteer to do a 10-hour lecture. I'd volunteer to be questioned. I'd volunteer to show.
It's funny, you just can't find anybody to volunteer to listen to your bullshit.
Through my records, I'd volunteer to take them to the hard drive.
Mayor, if you were the special prosecutor,
you do volunteer. I've watched your goddamn show. What are you waiting for? That's my biggest problem. Bannon. What is Rudy waiting for? Where is the line where he goes, I can present this in public, but I have to wait until I'm in court to present this? None of the evidence he's talking about in his discovery of this alleged laptop and the alleged contents of this hard drive, which people will look into, by the way, the investigation into Biden's taxes from the hard drive will result in nothing. It'll take about 7 months, and they'll go, yeah, this is not only, half the stuff on this hard drive is they took real emails and added shit to it, and the other half of it is completely fabricated. And the hard drive's metadata doesn't even track it to the United States. And you can tell by these files that they came from Ukraine after Rudy Giuliani flew there. Like, this is the most ham-fisted pile of bullshit. And it will, I guarantee it will wipe itself out in 7 months. It'll waste a lot of time and taxpayer money, but it will. But where is the point? This is my confusing point. Maybe the chat room, you guys can, if there's somebody in there who legally has any kind of clue in this area, why is it that Rudy would have evidence that he believes is legitimate on this hard drive that he could not present in public versus what he presents in court as evidence? Because he is not presenting it in court as evidence. He isn't. And yet he is also not showing it on his web show. There's a couple of times where he's held up pictures, but he doesn't let you look at them. He just says they're there, or he reads from them while they were down on the table, but he doesn't have them up at the same time, like I said, with the metadata and all this. Where in the world is the line between, I have all this evidence on the hard drive, you know what I mean, that has, it's all very sketchy. The whole crime family, 30 years of criminality, and they've been shuffling money around, and it's a big thing. We got all this evidence and stuff like that. I can't show it to you. You understand? Because it's for court. Now, when I get in front of a judge, I go, well, I can't show it to the court, Your Honor, because I didn't bring it. And I won't. Unless I have an evidentiary hearing, which you promised to air on television, in which case I will talk about how awful this stuff is in it, but I will not present the hard drive itself. Because he took it, by the way, if you'll recall, was it September, guys, when we watched this? He took the hard drive after he was like, I saw some images on here of women that must be underage. Yeah, because they couldn't just be skinny girls. According to Rudy, I saw some images on there that were so horrifying. I had to take it to the local Delaware police, right? Remember that? Remember? Do you remember the local, like the state police or the Delaware police around, or whatever that shit is? Remember that? You guys remember, right? That wasn't a whole fantasy, right? He goes, I took this to the FBI has had it since last year and they haven't done shit with it. But I saw some things on here. I've only seen half of it. I don't know how the fuck you see half a hard drive. I mean, obviously, we've got a Gramps factor here. But at some point, honestly, you find a hard drive or a laptop. You manage to get into it. God knows how you get the code to get in, other than someone broke into it for you. And then once it's been broken into, chain of evidence is broken. Therefore, the person who broke into it could have put stuff on it. Therefore, it is not admissible in court. Which is the problem with the blind laptop guy breaking into it, seeing shit he thought it was criminal, which was the second story about where they got the laptop. If you'll recall, the first story was it came from the shrink's house, and the shrink broke into it using, I don't know what it is. What's his dog's birthday? He always talks about the death of his dog. His dog's name was Scruffy, and he died in 1981. Scruffy 81. I'm in! Like some shitty 90s hacker movie, right? His shrink broke into it and found all this evidence of criminality and immediately called Rudy Giuliani, who is not serving as a law enforcement officer in any way and strictly represents the president. Didn't bring it to Fox News, where he knows he was a recurring person on Fox News, to any of the legal people there. Like, hey, Fox News, look, you want an exclusive? I found this thing, right? Any of that? No? So he brings the laptop, if you'll recall. I think it was in September. The psychologist that raped his clients, exactly. That got and was acting as a pill farm for his other clients, the ones that he didn't dope first. But in September, Rudy, and it was right after the Borat thing. It was a way to do, to cover for the fact that he was busted with his dick in his pants, with his hand on his dick in his pants in front of a woman he thought was 15. Rudy says, I found some awful stuff on this hard drive. I have to, in good conscience, take it to the Delaware State Police. And he did. Thank you, RJS. Has anybody heard anything about the Delaware State Police or the local police in Delaware going, we looked into the hard drive, we had a forensics expert look at it, and we found massive criminality and child porn? What would they be waiting for? What is it? You just let a pedophile run around making more child porn, selling more child, moving? What are you, going to build a case? Or do you hand that hard drive to your forensics expert? The guy looks at it and goes, yeah, dude, none of the shit on here is real. This is all fabricated in the last 12 months. Yeah, half the emails on here aren't even real. They're gibberish. They've got Latin in as just filler. All these pictures are AI generated. These aren't real people. They never were. AI generated characters don't have an age. What are you doing? What are we supposed to make a case on this for? Who sent this to you? Rudy Giuliani dropped it off. He did? No, he didn't. This never happened because he didn't drop it off. This is bullshit. He didn't take it in. He said he was going to because he has to in good conscience. He didn't. And if he did, it's worse because they didn't find anything. Or worst of all, they found child porn and went, well, it's Hunter. Which is like, you have to believe that. You have to believe that everyone at the Delaware State Police are down with child porn. The whole bunch of them. A whole lot of them. Thank you, Semantic Romantic. Thank you guys for the cheers and the bits and all that kind of stuff today. I forget in my diatribes and getting carried away that I lose you sometime in there. But if you'll recall, Giuliani said he took this hard drive to the Delaware police. And does anyone believe the Delaware police would just let child porn slide?
If you were special prosecutor,
if you were special needs,
volunteered and were appointed special prosecutor today, could you go in front of a grand jury and bring an indictment against Joe Biden and all his family before the inauguration on the 20th?
Cover your mouth. Nice body language. This makes me look like I'm considering what you're saying, but I want to say no, but I can't because I know which side my the butter goes on my bread, so I need to say yes. So I'm going to cover my hand with my mouth.
January, the year of
Thank
our
you,
Lord
Foggy.
2021, which is, I don't know, 6-7 weeks away.
You'd have to bring down a pared down indictment. You certainly couldn't bring the full racketeering indictment for the 30 years
Because there isn't one?
of selling out, $30-40 million. But
Why not? Why not? Why couldn't you? Besides the fact that there is no case and you're full of shit. But besides that, why not? Where in the world can you not go after someone who's been politically corrupt and trading power and influence for money for multiple decades?
you certainly could do a discrete case with
A discrete case, just a little case.
most recent Chinese, the activity with the Chinese spies, where they were getting $10 million going to get $10 million a year. Hunter got $1 million up front. Joe was going to get 10%. That was being done with a
10% of $1 million is 10 million. All right.
spy master and a Chinese intelligence operative who since got killed. That case could be done pretty quickly.
Cool. Bring it out. Let's hear it. Let's hear the whole run of it. Break your case down for us. Give us your elevator pitch, Rudy. I mean, we've heard this bullshit before, but please.
That has espionage aspects to it.
It's sexy, but it hasn't got teeth. It's like the opposite of the firm.
You could certainly do one on. You could certainly do one on the Ukraine.
Wait, what was that? Why was there an Apple remote? Oh, it's Roku. They're
You could
running it. They
certainly-
run an ad below the thing.
One on. You could certainly do one on the Ukraine bribes, which over there.
One's good enough. You're saying right now you volunteer to be special prosecutor.
Yeah, this is what he volunteers to do.
If you were appointed special prosecutor before the 20th of January, noon on the 20th, in front of a grand jury, you're confident that you could bring an indictment about their compromise by the Chinese Communist Party and taking money from the CCP.
He's starting to shake a little bit. His eyes are getting a little wide. You're putting him on the spot, Steve Bannon, and he knows that Trump is watching this.
That is correct. That's what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What am I going to say? No.
Yes, sir. And I'm quite confident I could bring the Ukraine case. That one I have 22 witnesses.
Yeah, all of them are living in Russia under the protection of Vladimir Putin and were drummed out of Ukraine because they were sock puppets for the Russian government trying to subvert the entire economy and the energy sector in Ukraine. But they're sweet people, and they're really, when you get them on a stand, they go, I don't know anything about what you're talking about, man. It is clearly, Joe Biden did, what did he do? Yeah, he did what Rudy said a lot. Kind of thing, man. Don't forget. Yeah, so anyways, do I have to keep sitting here or keep okay. Your Honor, I'd like to redirect objection on what grounds? He wants to ask my witness questions. Sustained. You're a great lawyer, Rudy.
And I have tape recordings.
You have tape recordings. Uh-huh. We've heard the tape recordings. We've already heard them. No one was convinced. It was like, yeah, that's like, I have a video of Biden bragging that he wouldn't give $1 billion in loan guarantees to Ukraine unless they got rid of this prosecutor, which of course the European Union, the World Bank, the United States Congress, the United States Senate, and the administration all wanted to get rid of, but Ukraine was holding on to until Joe Biden got the job done. And so he was bragging that he leveraged it, and he said, the guy's like, you can't do that, I'll call the president. And Biden went, call him. I'm not doing this on my behalf, asshole. Call him. I'll sit here while you call him. And you'll hear, Joe knows what he's doing. Ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, the Ukraine case is 100%.
It's 100%, man.
100% made case.
It's a made case, right, Rudy? Yeah. Yeah, Your Honor, it's a made case, 100%.
which I was tortured, pilloried, threatened with disbarment, threatened.
Yeah, I watched them torture Rudy. Like they said they'd buy 5 cigars using his promo code Rudy, and they only bought the box of 4. That's torture, man. And some of them he was pilloried by the My Pillow guy. Never. That's the worst, man. It's gross. I mean, I've seen people's fingernails pulled out over gambling debts, but seeing Mike Pillow pillory someone's just vicious. Objection sustained.
This is why people love you, Mayor, because
That's why they love you. It's not your breath. It's your joie de vivre. It's your eternal optimism and your pessimism about America. Oh, thank you, Lee. Australian, that's fantastic.
Stan, you're a honey badger. You're relentless. They don't care. You don't.
He's totally a honey badger. I mean, right. He's a honey badger.
How you mock,
I
care how you ridiculed.
I'm very, very sad about
I know how you get mocked and ridiculed, but you're really a honey badger. Listen to this.
disbarment, threatened with prosecution.
This is why people love you, Mayor, because they understand you're a honey badger. You're relentless. They don't care. You don't care how you mock.
I have to tell you, I'm
ridiculed.
very, very sad about this, Steve.
Yeah, you don't care how you're mocked or ridiculed. I'm actually very sad about being mocked and ridiculed. Oh, that's interesting. So you're saying you're not a honey badger? No, I don't. I use stevia on doctor's orders. I don't even use honey. And I've never tried badger. What is that? What is that anyways? Beaver. You should try it. It's very tasty.
This isn't something that I'm happy about.
No. That's weird. You look happy.
To see something like this happening to the presidency of the United States gets you close to one.
Yeah, it's not happening to the president. It's not happening to Donald Trump. It's happening, guys. It's happening to the presidency. Okay? Understand that. This isn't about Donald Trump. This is about the presidency of the United States of America. And what kind of country, what kind of democracy are we if the president, whoever they are, can't use one state that voted for them to stop the votes of a bunch of states that voted against them? I mean, what kind of democracy is this? This is really, all right.
Right.
Yeah, this is good. Dead air. More of this.
The United States gets you close to wanting to cry. I mean, I never thought
You don't care how you're mocked or derided. No, but this is terrible. It's so terrible. It makes you want to cry. Sorry, this is an awkward moment.
I know.
I can't handle a man crying. That was Rudy Giuliani, folks.
Like this would be stepping into the White House, where I would possess in my records the evidence that shows that he's been a career criminal.
Mayor, I know you've got to bounce. And you've got to take.
Yeah, he's got. His face is swelling up. I don't know what that is. God damn. Purple lips, bad oxygen levels. I know you got to bounce because you have to have another transfusion of monoclonal antibodies that the average citizen can't get.
A career criminal.
Mayor, I know you've got to bounce. And you've got to take care of yourself, Mayor. The entire world needs you. So,
but don't get a big head about it. Christ, oh my gosh, have to duck out. My daughter has ligament damage from what? I hope they're okay. And Anna's taxing, pick her up from the swimming pool and do a couple of errands. Well, Janine, tell her heal well. I always recommend acupuncture for busted joints. It's why I have full articulation in my finger that has 3 screws in it. I highly recommend acupuncture. You want to find a good one. You got to find a good acupuncturist. Ask around, but it's very helpful with joints specifically. If she isn't scared of needles, and if she is, it's a good way to get rid of that fear because you can work your way up from really tiny needles to the thicker ones. I use the big, what are effectively like the Korean or Japanese needles, which are super thick. It's like, it's like a railroad spike, but I just help it. Yeah.
Gotta keep.
Bannon doesn't have a stutter. He doesn't know how to deal with the delay with the other person.
We got to keep you healthy, okay?
Thank you very much.
We got to keep you healthy, meaning the American taxpayer, by paying for monoclonal antibody treatments that the average citizen can't get. Yeah, the entire world desperately needs Rudy Giuliani to keep up the fight because no one else can do it. Because no one else is dumb enough to buy this bullshit.
Commercial break.
Christ.
Dedicate.
Yeah, okay. All right, one last thing, and then I got to sign off for the day. So during Trump's, let's see what this one. We still had a few minutes left in the other one. This has only got what? About 10 minutes left in it. But we'll look at this. So this is Trump's deposition on Trump University. Some of you may have seen the hot mic stuff that was released earlier. They actually got pieces of the actual one. And then this is Trump's fraud flip-flop.
We deserve, Mr. Trump. Does Exhibit 490 appear to be an accurate copy of portions of that book?
Your Honor, considering I've never seen my book and never been anywhere near a typewriter, I cannot admit that.
Okay. If you look at you, among other things in this book, you take the education industry to task, correct?
I take what?
And the education industry to task, correct?
Well, I wrote it 16 years ago, so I talk about education, I think, but I wrote it a long time ago.
I don't really remember, honestly. It's just a book I wrote. I don't really remember the books I write. Most people forget the books. And ask Stephen King what his idea for The Shining or Cujo was, and he'll probably go, I mean, he's written so many books, and I've written, hi, Beth. Honey badger's an animal from Africa, South Asian India, lifespan 24 years, conservative status is least concern. Yes, honey badgers are kind of amazing. I think they're unfortunately named. They're called that because they'll stick their face in a beehive and don't give a shit how much they get stung.
You look at the second page of the exhibit itself, which is
Page 2?
You mean the second page?
yes, it's page 156 of the e-book version of this.
Okay.
You wrote this book, right?
Well,
Yeah, I did.
The education industry is delivering less for more money and claiming no ground has been lost. It's fraud, pure and simple.
Yeah.
So would you agree that when educators deliver less than promised for more money and claim they're doing something great, it's fraud, pure and simple?
Question calls for improper opinion, testimony, incomplete hypothetical.
get him, Petrocelli. Don't let him in. Don't let him mess with Donald.
Lacks foundation.
Bye, Colleen.
Vague and ambiguous. You can answer. Subject to those objections.
Vague and ambiguous.
The education is living less for.
Let the record reflect that, again, you presented him with page 156, and
I'd
there's
really
no
have,
context for
I'd
that
really
statement.
I'd like to read, the entire chapter before I answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, he wrote it, but he doesn't remember it.
You have the rest of it?
Without reading the entire chapter of your own book, you can't answer the question as to whether or not when educators deliver less than promised for more money and claim they're doing something great, it's fraud, pure and simple.
You can answer that question, whether or not you need to read the whole chapter in order to answer the question.
I would say it's no, it's not fraud.
Okay, that's not fraud. So this statement in your book you think is not accurate?
It's trying to get a point across.
So it's not accurate.
Well, it's trying to get a point across that it's fraud, but it's not fraud. But that's the point I'm trying to get across, is that it's fraud, even though, yeah.
It's not accurate, yeah. It's trying to get
No, the book, yeah. So the statement of your opinion about the education system in our country is not accurate, and you wrote it and sold it. I see.
a point across.
Using an inaccurate statement.
It's
to get a point across.
it's trying to get a point across. Education is very important to me. I'm trying to get a point across.
What's that point?
And the
And
point
again,
you're trying to get across was what?
that education has gotten out of control and that ideally something has to be done about it.
How has it gotten out of control? Oh, people are promising a lot and not delivering, and therefore it's fraud. That point?
So the fact that it was fraud, pure and simple, was just thrown in there.
No, it's just I'm trying to make a point, and it's not fraud, but it's I'm trying to make a point as strongly as possible.
Up to
Lying.
I'm going to direct your attention. Exhibit 493 contains excerpts of Mr. Sexton's testimony in this case, the Cohen case.
Mm-hmm.
If you could, please turn to page 261 of his testimony. Okay. And I'll represent to you that these questions are referring to that same script that you had in your hand, which is Exhibit 492. Okay. And the question posed to him was, you knew when you were sending the script.
Where is that? You knew.
I'm sorry. Page.
I see. Number 6. Okay.
Yes, there you go. Line 6. You knew when you were sending the script that you were sending it to individuals that had not, in fact, had dinner with Mr. Trump, correct? Answer. That's correct. And you knew that Mr. Trump had not said anything to them over dinner, correct? Answer. That's correct. Sending a script to instructors that contains a misrepresentation about having had dinner with you and discussed real estate with you over dinner, do you believe, Mr. Trump, that set a good example or a bad example for the instructors?
Well, I think it's hyperbole, probably. And, I think it's...
Yeah, it's hyperbole. When you describe you are someplace and you're not in that place, that's hyperbole. It's just exaggeration. I'm on Earth. That place is on Earth. How close or how far I'm away. What's the judge? Who's to say I'm not in Shanghai right now?
Not particularly important, but I think it's hyperbole.
I object to the question is calling for improper opinion testimony that is vague and ambiguous.
So that's totally vague and ambiguous. So would you say that instructing your instructors from a script to lie about an actual specific meeting,
the kind of thing you consider to be an innocent exaggeration?
That's same objections.
Yeah, I'd say that's an innocent exaggeration, yes.
So
it's an exaggeration. They didn't, they kind of had dinner with me, basically within. Oh my God, Templeton, thank you so much. Bless you. I appreciate that. Holy smokes, I'm blown away. That is so lovely. Criminy, I'm so glad I looked up when I did. That's you.
If the instructors are trying to basically convince the students that they have a close relationship with you, and that's part of the pitch.
The bullshit.
That they have such a close relationship with you that you actually have dinner and talk real estate with them. That's, you believe, is an innocent exaggeration?
Same objections.
I would say it's hyperbole. I would really say it's...
hyperbole?
I think that's probably the word for it. A lot of people say they met with me and they were with me and all of this stuff. I have it all the time. I think it's hyperbole.
But you, in this context of talking to prospective students, people who might pay to be instructed by these...
Hey, Siri, define hyperbole.
Hyperbole means exaggerated statements or claims not meant to be taken literally.
Exaggerated statements or claims not meant to be taken literally. Yeah, I didn't literally have dinner with him, and he didn't literally discuss real estate with me. He didn't literally do that. It's kind of, poetically.
You consider that to be innocent exaggeration?
Same objections.
I don't know. People love the courses, so I just don't know. But I would say it's...
People love the courses.
It's an hyperbole, yeah.
And hyperbole in this context is the same thing as saying something is not accurate, right?
Same objections.
It depends on how you're talking about accurate.
Yeah, isn't it? We're beginning to realize that he taught that to Kellyanne Conway, not the other way around. The birth of alternative facts.
But I would say that this thing like that's very innocent. I can see a lot of people doing it.
Yeah, a lot of people say they had dinner with someone and that person gave them information about stuff that they didn't, in selling that same experience to someone else under the promise that may also be you.
But again, you're talking about something that's not, something that's false.
Same objection.
Well, I didn't have dinner with him, but I could see it being hyperbole. I could see it being something that somebody would say.
Okay, but hyperbole in this context, again, in this context.
You might
of
say
the
tonight
statement-
that we had dinner together. You know.
But
No, he wouldn't.
Yeah.
it would be false for me to say that you and I had breakfast together this morning, right?
Yeah, it's sort of false. It would
Sort of false. Sort of false. The Donald Trump story.
depend on how you meant it, how you said it, but yeah, it would be false.
Is there
You
any
could say we sort of had lunch together.
is there any way I could
No,
say
I think
had
I think
breakfast
it's
with Donald
I think
Trump?
it's a statement of hyperbole. It's not the big deal. The big thing is how well they taught.
Again, I'm focusing on this.
And by the way, in case you missed yesterday, they taught so well, he doesn't remember any of their names or why they were hired or what their qualifications were. He just wanted them to be good.
These are false statements that Mr. Sexton, this is a false statement that these folks had dinner with you when they did not, correct?
I think it's hyperbole. That's what I think it is. I think it's, I think the important thing is the level of instruction. I think it's innocent hyperbole. Maybe it's trying to make a point. I don't know, but
maybe it's trying to make a point. I don't know. You sent them the script to say this.
Didn't have dinner with him, but I think it's innocent hyperbole.
Yeah. I didn't have dinner with him, but I think it's innocent hyperbole.
And okay, this is line 7. And again, you were just following what you were told to say in this recording, right? That Donald Trump had personally picked you. Answer, that's correct. And just to follow up, you've never met Trump, right? Answer, no. Question, so it's not true that he picked you. There's an objection. Answer, yeah, it's true. He didn't pick me, no. See that, Mr. Trump?
Yeah, well, that's different than what 178 says, right? Because 178, he's saying that because it's Michael Sexton. Michael Sexton was my arm. So, he was saying that Michael Sexton picks me. That's a similar thing.
By the way, he claimed not to know who Michael Sexton was in yesterday's video. If you'll recall. Been so many years, don't know him.
So it's a very
But
different
the guy is now his arm.
kind of a question you'd be asking me.
You agree with me that Michael Sexton doing something is not the same as you personally doing something, correct?
No, I don't agree with that.
Objection.
Okay, so if Michael Sexton is brushing his teeth right now, is that the same thing as you brushing your teeth right now?
Timeout. It's an improper hypothetical.
Yeah, Trump does not brush his teeth. He has his caps replaced every year. His breath smells like rotting cat being eaten by I suppose, honey badger and farted through a rotten egg windmill.
Good answer.
Michael Sexton, I assume, picked him, and Michael Sexton's my representative. So he assumed that I picked him. I mean, Michael Sexton is my representative. I don't hire most of the people in the Trump organization, but I hire them through people that work for me. So Michael Sexton was my representative,
So he personally picked me by not personally picking me.
representative. He picked him. And that's what he said in 178.
But he also said you did not personally pick him.
Well,
The witness said that.
Right. And he also said
No, I didn't pick. I'm not saying I did pick him.
Right. You exactly. That's what I'm getting at. You did not personally pick him, correct?
I'm not saying I picked him, but Michael Sexton picked him, and Michael Sexton is my arm.
But you did not. He said he never met you. You did not meet him, correct?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. And you did not personally pick him, correct?
No, I didn't.
Mr.
No,
Goff.
I don't think so.
Okay. Did you authorize Mr. Goff to represent to students that you, Donald Trump, had personally picked him?
No, I never met him.
Is that the level of candor to falsely represent to students that you had personally picked him?
Look at his lawyer's already got his hand up. Yep, my client doesn't understand what candor means. He's going to ask you if that's a Jewish singer who works in a deli.
Is that the level of candor you expected from the instructors at Trump University?
Assumes facts, not in evidence, is argumentative, and calls for improper opinion testimony.
Now you can answer.
Can answer.
Right. Jesus Christ. I'm not even a lawyer. I know how this shit works.
My representative handpicked him. He was my top executive, and that's all I know. I mean, I haven't heard this. but my representative picked him, and I assume because based on what he said in 178, my representative picked him. So that's all I can say.
But you agree.
I didn't pick him myself.
But you acknowledge, though, sir, that it is a false statement for Mr. Goff to say Donald Trump personally picked me.
Object to the question as calling for improper opinion testimony and assumes facts not in evidence.
States the
and
record.
misstates the record.
Vague in opinion. You can answer.
Well, I guess he's saying I picked him through my representative. I mean, I assume that's what he meant.
Well, that's not what he said. He said Donald Trump personally picked me.
I'm just telling you an interpretation.
Objection that his testimony is
Basically, what they're getting at is that the instructors at Trump University lied because they were told to lie by Trump's organization, and that Trump was in charge of the whole goddamn thing. And now he's like, I don't even know any of these assholes.
beyond the one excerpt you identified.
And what I'm asking you is,
Melvin says Democrats can't even run a state, much less the whole country. By the way, the economy does better under Democrats, always has. And the biggest financially producing cities and states are all Democratic cities and states. I don't know how they managed to do that. Must all be just it's that big it's all that adrenochrome industry, I suppose. It's all the pizza they sell, right?
what he represented to the students, that Donald Trump personally picked me. Is that true or false?
My representative, my number one, my top person picked him.
Okay, not you.
The top person, by the way, that he had never met and he didn't recognize because it had been so many years.
It wasn't me, but a lot of people would consider that to be an offshoot of me.
You weren't Steve Goff's partner, were you?
You picked. I wasn't who?
You weren't Steve Goff's partner, were you?
No.
The question is,
You didn't talk to Steve Goff all the time, did you?
I didn't speak to Steve Goff, no. But my representative picked him.
You had one lawsuit in which you sued
Last one.
for defamation because they said you were worth hundreds of millions of dollars instead of billions.
And I did very well in that lawsuit. Unfortunately, we can't prove damages, so that's okay.
Hold on. Let's make sure we're talking about the same lawsuut. This is the lawsuit against Timothy O'Brien and Warner Books.
Yeah.
And your testimony was you did very well.
Yeah, we were doing very well. And frankly, the biggest problem with that lawsuit is we couldn't approve damages.
No, your testimony you just gave was that you did very well in that lawsuit, right?
did you have?
Oh, I lost the lawsuit.
Well, there you go. And look, we found how the election goes. Trump did very well in this election. He did very well in the election. The problem was they couldn't prove damages, in court and shit. And then
No, your testimony you just gave was that you did very well in that lawsuit, right?
Did you have?
Oh, I lost the lawsuit.
Okay.
But I made a very good point with that lawsuit.
So you
Oh,
lost
yeah, I get a good point that you lost.
the lawsuit.
Yeah, but I'm glad I brought that lawsuit. I made a very good point with that lawsuit.
And there you go. Not a thing has changed. I mean, doesn't that bring us to him losing this election? I'm so glad I sued all the way to the SCOTUS because I proved a very good point that I'm a loser. That he's thrice a loser. Once, twice, 3 times a loser. And I know Diaper Don. I have to say, it's been by the way, I gotta take off. We're over a half hour over the show, and I'm still trying to keep it within due bounds. Lately, it got away with me with more of these things, and unless Trump actually comes out and speaks and gives some sort of a speech, we'll try to stick to our normal levers so the rest of you guys can have a life as well. I don't want to certainly eat into Rachel's time on any shows. Sorry, Chris. But that said, I will see you guys tomorrow for the radio show, 9 to 11 a.m. Pacific time on WCPT Radio, and of course streaming across all of our platforms here. Don't forget to join us. And of course, thank you guys for supporting the show, and thank you for the bits and the cheers and Templeton's a rat, and oh my God, it just bless you. Thanks for the new follows. Thanks, Kate, for subscribing. Thanks, Jennifer Eyrig, for the bits. Thank you so much. Beth, thank you for the super chat. And Lee, thank you, Foggy OG, as well. And Sherry Scary, thank you for the bits as well. Thank you guys a ton for your support on there. Thank you, DC2257. bless you. Appreciate it. You're stone cold hilarious, Hal. I agree. Thank you. Frankie Smith, thank you for the super chat as well. Thanks for the new subscribers. Look at that. There's a new subscriber, new follows. Always a good time. May Watts, thank you for resubscribing for 4 months in a row on Twitch. If you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to the channel, and it really helps us out, and it doesn't cost you a dime. Even if you watch it on another source. If you're on Facebook and you're like, hey, I can't give bits because they're expensive, or you don't want to, you don't have extra money for Super Chat. If you happen to be an Amazon Prime member, you can go over to Twitch and sign up and then subscribe to the channel, and it helps me out, and it doesn't cost you anything, and then you can go back to watching it on whatever source you do. That's a great way to help the channel, is subscribe on Twitch using your Amazon Prime account. That said, we're getting to the point where we are, we're getting close to the holidays, and I'm going to have a holiday special coming up that I'm going to be shooting a bit of it, over the next couple weeks, like every other day, and effectively create just my own little slice of Christmas. You know how Dolly Parton does her Christmas special every year? It's like that, but my chest is flat. And I don't have 9 number 1 hits or whatever. Can we just say that Dolly Parton is a gem, and we don't deserve her? She's just an extraordinary person. Oh my gosh, Benny Loco, we love you. I'm sorry to hear that. We adore you. We hope speedy healing for your husband. Love to both of you. Let us know how it works out. I just saw that, so thank you so much for all your support, and even for going over to Stuttering John's channel and reminding people to give a thumbs up and like the show and all that kind of stuff. She's been great about doing that for us, and we love her, and so much love from all of us to you, Benny Loco, and your husband. Take care of yourself, please, as well in all this. Be careful when you're going to and from the hospital, because there's a lot of sick people, and this is not a good time to have to go to the emergency room. We understand. So we adore you. I will see you guys tomorrow, 9 to 11 a.m. Pacific time. 773-763-9278 is our number. I'm going to put up a little thing on the page so that people can call in, although it'll probably mean that, since we spread it all over the internet, that the lines will be flooded, and I fear for the people at WCPT. But we'll be on tomorrow. Johnny Million will be with us. And then, of course, I will, depending on what the schedule is tomorrow, I might have an extra stream. Tomorrow night, first of all, it's my girlfriend's kid's birthday. And also it's the day I become, I continue to become, I will continue to be the senior deacon of my Masonic Lodge, and we're having to do our gathering about it online. So we're doing that tomorrow night. So I won't have a stream tomorrow night at any time in the normal window. If I did anything, it would be super late at night. But more than likely, I'll probably jump in on Sunday afternoon or something just to say hi, and catch you guys up on just kind of, kind of personal fun stuff. And that's that. So, all right, I adore you. I will see you guys tomorrow. Those of you that join us for the radio show. If not, I will see everybody else on Monday. Have a great weekend, and I will see you soon. Take care. And much love to you, Benny Loco. And thank you, Templeton Zarat, again. That was amazing. And everybody who supports the show. You guys are fantastic, and it's so heartwarming. And the holidays are coming up, and it means a lot. It really does. I am honestly flabbergasted regularly by that. So thank you so much. Cheers. And theme song. 1, 2, 3, and go. It always takes a little time. I'm sorry. Gonna take a little time. There it is. Cheers. See you guys.
That's impossible. The reason they tell you things are impossible.
And that was scary. Now 200 is sort of the new normal, and you know what you get when you're having 200,000 cases per day? You get record high deaths as well. And so the US on Wednesday set a new record for single day deaths from the coronavirus with 3,054. And we're